Harrison Bergeron is my springboard for introducing my 8th grade AIG Utopian unit. Through this text, I want my students to develop critical literacy skills, where they do not just accept a text, but instead they challenge the very ideas that are embedded in the story. Numerous Common Core standards are used throughout this unit, including reading literature, writing, and speaking and listening. I begin this lesson with the question, would society be improved if everyone were treated equally? Almost everyone usually responds with a yes. After all, we do want everyone to have equal rights. However, as we read and analyze Harrison Bergeron, students discover that everyone being treated completely equal is not the same thing as equal rights. In this text, being equal means bringing everyone down to average. In the society, as time has passed, the bar for average has lowered. If an individual is above average with any skill, they are handicapped. For example, if you are intelligent, you are forced to wear headphones where shrill sounds go off every minute. The sounds vary so that you can never get used to them. If you are a talented dancer, you are required to wear weights so that your dancing cannot be better than the average person's. No one is permitted to excel in any area. My students realize that they would be handicapped. We discuss the many handicaps that they and others might have. Typically, we read the story together as I want to develop my students' critical literacy skills. I want them to learn how to question a text and challenge the very ideas presented. I want them to question why the author wrote the text. Did the author intend to send a message about the wrongs our society was committing? Is our society trending in this direction? Do we create handicaps for others? By categorizing people into certain groups, do we limit what they are able to accomplish? And if so, what can we do to create change? What can we do to encourage individuality and celebrate individuals' unique gifts? As we read this text, my students discover what a boring world it would be if no one could be different. What if no one was allowed to excel with their talents? What if free thinking was stolen from us? What would you do with your time if you had no talents? Remember, no one is smart, attracted, gifted with music or sports or art. Would you just exist? What evidence do my students see of their abilities and talents being held back so that everyone is treated the same? I hope that they look at themselves and see that they are often held back academically for being smart. They are often placed in classrooms where they are not challenged to learn and to keep learning. But once they complete an assignment, are told to just read, have free time, or help someone else. Doesn't our standardized testing bring everyone down to an average level? Doesn't this average level get lowered over time? What about school and other community sports programs where everyone is awarded a trophy or certificate? What about our arts programs, which are currently being challenged as if they are worth keeping in our schools? I show my students a poster designed by my former assistant principal's daughter and ask them to respond to her question, what becomes of a butterfly with roots? Do they ever feel that they are restricted with developing their unique talents? Why did Kurt Vonnegut write this story in 1968? What was he warning us about? What was happening in this time period that gave him concern for our society's trend to create equality? What's happening in our world today? I pose these questions and others through our discussion and by assigning them to students in their groups. I challenge them to create their own questions. We have a Socratic seminar based on these questions and others to encourage inquiry and analyzing skills. As we read and analyze the story, I evaluate my students' understanding. Everyone is encouraged to participate. Everyone is asked to write some of their thoughts and questions on sticky notes, paper, Padlet, journaling, etc., so that everyone's voice can be heard, even my shy, quiet ones. Some of the students' questions are given to students as a writing assignment so that I can evaluate their reading comprehension and their writing skills. Last year, I also gave my students the challenge of not only posing their own discussion questions, but also to create an EOG-type question that would involve critical thinking skills. They found creating an EOG question and answers much more difficult than they had expected. After students created these questions, the questions were then given to the class. I extend this lesson first by giving my students writing prompts for essays or projects. One example is the following. Put yourself in the Harrison Bergeron story. Think of 5 talents or traits you have. You would need to be handicapped for equality purposes so that you would not be above average. Come up with ways in which Harrison's government might handicap those attributes. Be creative and respectful and use different examples that are in the story. Create a visual of yourself with your handicaps that keep you at a low average and create a legend explaining your visual. For the reflection, think about an ordinary day in your life. Find at least 2 examples of how you might be handicapping someone around you, either directly or indirectly. Organize these examples into a written form and include a reflection of what you have learned doing this project. As this story is the springboard for our Utopian unit, we continue to use the questions posed from this story to connect with related texts and visuals. I want to challenge my students as to what they can do to make the world a better place. Maybe a utopian society isn't possible, but what can they contribute? How can they have an active voice in making a positive difference? As Avila and Moore write, meeting the standards should be one of the minimum goals and not the overarching one. We want our students to soar high above the standard requirements. We want our students to seize these standards, apply their critical thinking skills, and create solutions that will affect our future. Coffey shares her view. In opposition to the banking model, teachers who recognize the possible value of developing critical literacy do not view their students as vessels to be filled, and instead create experiences that offer students opportunities to actively construct knowledge. Learning and life are about so much more than reading a text and answering multiple choice questions, or writing bland essays on irrelevant topics. Avila and Moore state, critical literacy assignments can provide an opportunity for students to transcend test scores and to add their distinct voices to the discourses of authority. It is essential that we encourage our students to not just accept the way things are, but instead to critically analyze issues, to challenge them, and to have an active voice in creating positive change. Our students truly are our future. As teachers, what can we do to prepare them to lead our world into a bright and engaging future, into a future that has limitless possibilities?